Hi everyone. This is Mark Giovanni, and today we're gonna talk, in this short video, we're gonna talk about how to get rid of the muddiness in your mixes and gain clarity and separation. And in fact, a couple of days ago, we talked about this, and we talked about reverbs. And we said that it's reverbs and EQ. So today we're gonna cover EQ. So how to gain clarity? The secret is reverbs, different reverbs, and the specific type of EQ that we'll describe. But before we start, I'm gonna ask you that if you're watching this video and you think that some of your friends may find this interesting, please share and tag your friends in the comments. Tag people that you think that this content could be useful, and that lets me know that you like these videos, and I'll keep making them. All right. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. So here's the thing. We said to gain clarity, to avoid muddiness, we have to use different types of reverbs. So not just like one overall reverb, different types of reverbs, and we described how to pick the exact length and the amount of reverb depending on high pitch and low pitch and short notes and long notes and all that. Today we're going to be covering mixing, and here's the thing: the difference. Here's the key concept. It's very different producing a mockup than recording an orchestra. When we are recording an orchestra, we are doing this. We are recording it once. Or maybe like today's more modern approach of recording an orchestra, we may record the orchestra like we will do for like 5 passes. We'll record like the strings and then the brass and then the percussion, and it'll be different passes. But the main problem that's happening is that recording the same, recording the orchestra, the same instrument. Let's say that the orchestra is an instrument, like a big instrument. Recording the same instrument in the same room with the same mics, with the same setup over and over again, it produces one problem that's called frequency stacking. And that happens a little bit when we are dubbing the orchestra like several times and recording for the strings but it happens a lot when we are producing a mock-up, because when we record the orchestra 5 times, it's just 5 times. But when we are producing a mock-up, we are maybe having 20 tracks, and in fact, let me just real quick explain this here. All right, so here's the thing. I'll try to explain this real quick. So let's say that this is the conductor. All right, we are recording the orchestra, and this guy is the conductor. So right above the conductor, we have a set of mics, 3 mics. It's called the Deca tree. It's a set of 3 mics. Right here's the conductor, right, and right here's the orchestra. Then we've got the white mics, so it's a set of 2 mics here, and we've got the surround mics. All right, and the orchestra could be like here, and it'd be something like this maybe. And we would have like the violins here maybe, then we've got the violas, we've had the horns here, something like that, and then we would have the double basses, we would have the cellos, and the violas, right? So violins 1, 2, violas, and then we would have maybe the woodwinds here, we'll have a little bit of brass here, maybe the percussion around here. So something like this, all right? So this is the orchestra, this is the main set of mics that we have. Well, in fact, the main set of mics is the 5 mics. Those are called the room mics, all right? Deca tree and the 2 whites. Those are the room mics, and those here are the surround mics. Those are the surround mics. Okay, so we also have a set of mics that are closed, that are called the closed mics. But we have 2 sets of closed mics. We've got the section mics, which depending on the section we will have 1, 2, or 3. But let's say it's not the case. But let's say that we have 1 mic for each section. It's not the case. But and then we have a set of closed mics that, for example, for the violins is 1 every 2 chairs, or 1 every 4 or 1 every 3, 4 chairs. Anyway, the closed mic, we've got a lot of, for example, for the horns, it's 1 every 2 horns. For the double bass, is 1 per double bass. For the cellos, generally is 1 per cello, or sometimes 2 per cello, etc. All right, so we've got a lot of closed mics. Okay, here's the thing. If we bring down, most of the times, 80% of the sound will come from the room mics. We will enhance the room. If we want the orchestra to sound a little bit more far, we will enhance the room sound if we bring up the surround mics, and we will use the closed mics for many different reasons. But the main reason will be if we want a little bit more of a closed sound, or we want to isolate one of the instruments a little bit. But generally, we won't be using the closed mics that much. Okay, And here we are talking about the stereo mix. Let's think about a stereo mix. If we were mixing surround, then it'd be a little bit more complex. But the main thing, if we were mixing surround, is that we would use those and we will route those to the surround mics, to surround the speakers. Sorry. But okay, so just if we just use those 5, we have like around 70 mics. But if we just use those 5 or 7 mics, just if we record the orchestra, it's gonna sound great. Now, if we are doing like overdubs and we are like, okay, let's record the strings first, all right? This like, like these days type of recording. Let's record just the strings first, and then let's record the strings first, just the longest strings, and then let's record the shortest strings, so second take shortest strings, and then let's record brass and woodwinds, all right? So let's record brass and woodwinds, and then finally let's record percussion. So 3 takes. What happens? It's not a big of a, no, what happens is that first we have more flexibility when we are mixing afterwards, which is great. But we start having this small problem, that's the frequency stacking. It's the same set of mics in the same room with the same room response. It will have some sort, it's not going to be like a flat curve. It's going to have a little bit, it's going to have a specific curve, and some frequencies will start stacking, and that's going to create muddiness, and it's the contrary of clarity and separation. Okay, so if we record the orchestra 3 times, that's what happens. A little bit of a problem. Now, if we've got 20 tracks, let's say that we are a small mock-up, and we've got 20 tracks. If we are using 5 mics, let's say that we were just using the set of the room mics. 20 for 5, it's 100 mics. So the frequency stacking here becomes more problematic, and that's when we are having these problems when we are producing the mockup. And there are some libraries that have solved this problem internally for the library itself. For example, Elias scoring a string, they have this DBC thing that basically it loads 3 or 4 patches, and where you are playing one note, it'll trigger the 4 patches. But if you are playing chords, then it'll say, okay, the upper note's gonna go for these 2 patches, the middle note here, and the lower note in this patch. And because those patches were recording with the same mic setup, they have an internal EQ that avoids that frequency stacking, and they do a good job. But that's the internally each library. The libraries themselves, they cannot avoid the frequency stacking within your sequence. And for this is a small sequence, not that big of a sequence, but within my template. This is my template, around 400 tracks. If I close and I just see the tracks that I'm using at the moment, if we count here, maybe it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 12. Maybe in this point we've got maybe 20 tracks going on. So we are gonna have that frequency stacking. All right. So how do we solve that? Let's get to the problem. How to solve that? We are going to solve that with a little bit of EQ. It's not gonna be like EQ, the type of EQ that we think about, like I want to add a little bit of brightness to the strings, or I need to, I don't know, to get rid of the mid low end, or I just boost the mids. It's nothing like that. It's like some sort of chirurgical EQ that's gonna help reducing the frequency stacking problem. All right. So how do we do that? Let me just explain this real quick here. We have to find the annoying frequency and get rid of the annoying frequency. And the people sometimes ask, Mark, which one is the annoying frequency? Because I say, the muddiness happens in several places, but it happens from in the 200 to 350. That's the area where the muddiness happens. Sometimes happens around 2K as well, 2.5K, but let's focus on this one. Okay, and we have to find the muddy frequency, the frequency that's bothering somewhere around 2 to 350 or 400 hertz, and the hertz and get rid of that frequency. So cut the frequency a little bit. And how do we do that? Basically, if this is the EQ, what we are gonna do is go from 200 to 300. We will boost a little bit of frequency. We'll go back and forth, and we will try to find the frequency. And when we find the frequency, we will bring it down, and we will cut something around -1 to -3 dBs, something like that. All right. Let's do that in the sequencer real quick. And basically, the way you do that, I'm gonna select a doll. I'm gonna come here. Okay, so I'm gonna cue the doll. Sounds like this. And it sounds good, but it's a big sound, and it's got a lot of information in that 200 300 area, and we want to cut the annoying frequency there, because we've got the toms, we've got the taikos behind that they have punch and lots of nice sound that we don't want the doll to get that area muddy and to get rid of that clarity and separation. So the way that we are doing this is, again, if you take a look at here, I have EQ'd every single track. Every single track I have it EQ'd. And EQ means two things. One, cut everything below 20. Cut. Everything below 20 is out. All the low information there is out, except for a couple or three instruments, the lowest instruments in my template. And then I EQ that using the technique that I described, that area around 2 to 3 or 400. All right. So let's go to the doll here. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, where is it? Here. All right. So let's take a listen to the doll, and we're gonna open the EQ, which is here, and let's take a listen to it. Let me just get it here. Okay, and okay. So the way to find the mother frequency is not by soloing it, but rather by listening it in context, bringing it up, and narrowing the Q so it's a narrow, so bringing up the Q so it's a narrow cut, and then trying to find the annoying frequency and then cutting it a little bit. All right, so let's hit play, and whenever I don't hear the taikos and the timpanis and the toms and all the stuff that's behind the doll, whenever I don't hear those, it means that I found the annoying frequency. It's like if I'm EQing the cellos, whenever I don't hear the bassoons, that's the annoying frequency for the cellos, and I won't bring it down a little bit. So I'm gonna hit play, I listen it in context, and try to find the annoying frequency. Is that the one that's producing Muddiness. So what I'm gonna do now is bring it down somewhere around 2 to -1 to